Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain. I'm Rachel, or in my current guise of Black Cat, I am Felicia Hardy, I think is what that is. But I am doing a test session of my mask and my wig. Now, I did have to order wig glue and something else for my wig to make sure it stays for like the full 12 to 13 hours I will be at Dragon Con. And I am seeing how long my mask stays with the spirit glue. So, um, copy on that. But we are doing a trial run. And we are also reviewing books. Lost Souls meet under a full moon. So sorry, I had a message come through that I needed to respond to because I have D&D happening in about an hour, and I just got a message that one of my players is not coming. So we had to do a little bit of triage because this party has gotten themselves into a very prickly situation that I did not expect them to get themselves into last time. But let us talk about the Lost Souls Meet Under a Full Moon. Not it's just Lost Souls Meet Under a Full Moon by Mizuki Tsujimura and translated by Yuki Tajima. And I hope I'm saying those at least closely. I hope. I always hope. Um, but it is expected publication of August 26th, 2025, and it is fairly short in the fact that it was only about, I want to say it was maybe 160 pages on my e-reader. So there may be potentially pictures in the physical paperback edition because I see that the physical paperback is 265 or 256. So that hopefully, if you ever found that copy, would maybe have some really pretty pictures because I think it was described in a pretty beautiful way. Now, let us dive into the summary. A suspenseful magical realism novel about a mysterious teen go-between who arranges meetings between the living and the dead. From multi-million copy Japanese best-selling author Mizuki Tsujimura. I bring together the living and the departed. I am the go-between. When a young woman from Tokyo contacts the go-between to request a meeting with a deceased TV star who once helped her, she doesn't expect a teenage boy to show up. Dressed in a designer duffel coat and carrying a tattered notebook, Ayumi Shibuya, our mysterious intermediary, offers an extraordinary. I think there's a word missing. It says offers an extraordinary. He reunites the living with their dearly departed. I'm thinking opportunity could fit there. Offers an extraordinary opportunity, comma, he reunites the living with their dearly departed. Potentially there could be like a word missing in that. Meeting his clients at a luxury hotel, Ayumi lays down the ground. Each reunion is a one-time, I think ground rules. Again, we're missing a couple words in here. Lays down the ground rules. Each reunion is a one-time arrangement that the dead can refuse. The service entry is free, and the meeting must take place during a full moon. As Ayumi arranges these reunions, he encounters a resentful eldest son who wants to ask his mother to unearth the deed to a plot of land, a teen girl who blames herself for her best friend's death, and a weary businessman seeking answers about his fiance's disappearance days after he proposed. With each rendezvous, clues begin to surface, leading readers to unravel the mystery of the boy in the duffel coat, whose own story is eventually revealed. And so it does kind of give just a little bit more about the strange and the beautiful works of this particular author. And so in a previous episode, now I recorded it a few minutes ago, but you'll probably see it a couple days later. It was The Vanishing Cherry Blossom Bookstore. That one is very cozy, serene, comforting in a lot of ways. And I think this one has some similar qualities, but isn't quite as dreamlike as what the other one is. And so, in that respect, it is a little bit different, but still, the Japanese literature has this beautiful way with words that makes I don't know, even hard topics such as passing of a loved one feel more, I don't know, gosh, I'm kind of losing my words here, able to be processed because of the way it's delivered. So it is considered fantasy, magical realism, and fiction, as well as Japanese literature. Now it does say this one was first published on October 30th of 2010, but will be translated into English on August 26th of 2025 for public release. And so this is the first one I've ever read, to my knowledge, by this author. But I do see they are a little bit different than other, I guess, Japanese translated literature that I have run across. And I enjoyed it. Now, this one feels a little more what I would call blunt, in the fact that I don't feel like there were certain moments that didn't weave in those fantastical elements of kind of stepping through fog and then a bookstore appears. No, this is where these people are seeking out this go-between. And so we start with the first girl who, she, at one point, that was a really low point in her life. She had gone out with some coworkers, and it didn't end well because her tolerance for drinking was very, very low. Anyway, the coworkers just kind of left her on the street, and she was helped by a lady who was more or less passing by. That lady ended up being a TV actress who, after her passing, really shook the girl. And so the girl reaches out to this go-between in order to try to, I thank this soul for helping her during a moment that was so low. She was truly, it was truly kind of a turning point for her. Maybe not so much in an earth-shattering sort of way, but it was a turning point enough that she kind of was able to keep going. And so the go-between does kind of like the pre-meet and says, okay, hey, here's the rules. You get one opportunity. If they accept, this is the only opportunity you'll get to be able to speak to someone who has passed. They, the one who has passed, only ever get one opportunity, so they can decline as well. They can, they can wait for someone else to come along. And so, each person who goes to the go-between understands these rules, that there can really only ever be one meeting under this full moon, and it can't happen again. And so you have to spend that time wisely to be able to kind of say your piece, and that soul can also, I guess, have that last moment with the earth, kind of like reality, I suppose you could say. So the girl in the first story wants to meet this TV star, the one who helped her when she felt like she was at her lowest. But she's really nervous because she could be declined, and potentially someone else may have wanted to speak to that lady, or maybe a family member. Maybe she's waiting and could be declined because maybe she's waiting for a family member to reach out to her. But the woman says yes. The TV personality says yes. And so they get to meet. And so the go-between says, okay, we're going to meet at this time on this day, and it needs to be on a full moon. And you have until the sun rises to say whatever you need to say. So the girl goes in and she's like, hey, look, you may not recognize me, but and she tells her story of the thing that the lady did for her that really made a difference. But the lady doesn't remember that so much as she remembers receiving a package from the girl with some baked goods, I think cookies and a pound cake, and there was an embroidered napkin and something else. And the lady says, I don't usually remember the things I've done for people, but I remember the things people have done for me. And so she remembered her and the gifts that she shared when she was alive. So that was the reason she accepted the meeting, was because she remembered how good the cookies were, and how good the pound cake was, and how well done the embroidery was. So the girl is able to get all that out and be able to kind of, move on in her way. Then the next story is, it's an elderly son. And I say elderly because at this point I want to say he's about 50. So he has his own children, potentially grandchildren, if I was reading it correctly. And he wants to speak to his mother who passed. His mother told him about the go-between and how his mother used the go-between to speak to their father one last time. And so the mother does tell him, she's like, look, I'm only telling you, I'm not telling your brother. I feel like, you reach out to me when you need me. If it's something important about the business, just reach out to me. Okay, so it was in her will. And so that's what he does. But he seems very resentful and almost angry. And he definitely does not believe the go-between. The go-between is this high school boy who doesn't seem old enough to be burdened with this level of, burden. He doesn't seem old enough to carry this level of burden of being the go-between. And yet, he does arrange these meetings. He has them meet in this hotel and everything, that his services are free. He is a volunteer. So even though they approach him and they say, hey, okay, how much is this going to cost me? He's like, I'm a volunteer. This is free. And they're like, no. What sort of scam are you running? Like, none, to have these actors who portray our loved ones. And he's like, you don't think a son would recognize his own mother? He's like, well, they could be a really good actor. It's like, but it's your mom. You asked to see your mom. It will be your mom in there because she's accepted the meeting. And so, anyway, the stories continue like that, where you have various people throughout the narration of the book who want to meet people who have passed for various reasons. Again, the first one wants to meet the TV star that made a difference in her life. The next wants to talk to his mother again. I think the third is a high school girl who, if I remember correctly, her best friend died in a bicycle accident, but she thinks it's her fault and she blames herself. And in a way, she kind of almost could have, if you read the story. There is potential that she could have. I'm not going to tell you one way or the other. You would have to read that particular excerpt to find out. But they were best friends, and one of them seemed to be really good at theater, and the other decided to go ahead and try out for theater and ended up getting the role over the best friend who did theater. And so with the one who did theater, like previously, she gets really jealous. She gets really jealous of the fact that this girl is almost stealing her thunder, even though it's supposed to be her best friend. And ultimately, she kind of hatches a plan for the girl to have an accident, but it doesn't turn out to be so benign. Now, some of these stories are quite emotional, so I just want to put that out there. But I think each of them is well worth the read, because I do find them to be, some of them have good closure, and some of them have the closure that the person accepts. Some of them walk away and maybe don't have as much as you would think they should have. But that's the way that they're processing their level of trauma, in my personal thought. I love the fact that this one particular person, Kuralt, I think it's Kuralt, and they're, from what I'm seeing of their review, and I just glanced at it, they said in paragraph 5 of their lengthy review, it says, I'm going to try to keep this review short. And then it's 5 paragraphs. It takes up the whole screen. I certainly feel like this person loved this book, and they did give it 5 stars. I completely agree. Now, I'm going to give it 4.5, but I will round up to the full 5 just because, for shits and giggles. No, because I feel like since I can't give partial stars, I will always round up to the next star. That's just how I feel about it personally. Um, but I just like I thought that was kind of funny. I know that that doesn't tell you anything about the book, but it says I'm going to try to keep this short, and it's like this much text already, like before they tried to keep it short. So I think they do say, and all this is a comment of theirs, is that this is a great book for a book club, and is just like having therapy. I'm not certain if it's just like having therapy, but I do see that this sort of meeting for these characters can be therapeutic to work through some of their regret and grief over these individuals passing. And I loved it. I thought they were wonderful. And now this person said that they were in tears at the ends of several of the stories. I was not in tears, but I did feel very moved by some of the ways that they played out. But I'm not going to tell you the ending. The final chapter, if I remember correctly, was about Ayumi, which is the go-between, and I want to say the way he and his family, like, or that he becomes the go-between. If I remember correctly, that was correct. But I'm going to continue reading Japanese literature, especially in this sort of content or in this sort of context. This genre has an utter grip on me, and I will continue to be looking for and applying for these kinds of books. I don't think I can gush about them enough, but if you like cozy, comforting, some hard things that some people have to work through that may help you as well, then this may be a genre for you. I hope that you will pick it up if it feels right, but otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not liked and subscribed already, I hope you will. And thank you for joining me on this journey. I will see you all on the next page. Have a great one.